Having tested and measured the Alienware QD-OLED monitor extensively over 2 weeks, I think it is the best PC gaming monitor on the market right now, thanks to a unique combination of 7 factors. Factor number 1 is obviously its true blacks. Because every pixel on an OLED display can be turned on and off independently of each other, bright elements can coexist beside inky blacks, delivering insanely high contrast without manifesting any blooming artifacts, which affect even the very best full-array local dimming LCD-based monitors. However, note that because of the specific screen coating implemented without polarizer on QD-OLED, blacks would turn gray when hit by light, so it is best to use the monitor in a dimly lit room without light shining directly on the screen to achieve the deepest blacks and the highest contrast. Factor number 2 is its colors, especially in bright HDR content. I haven't seen such vibrant yet accurate colors on any consumer display so far, and the Alienware AW3423DW achieves this through a magical combination of 1. True blacks delivered by OLED, 2. High color luminance thanks to quantum dots with no white subpixels at play, and 3. High peak brightness up to 1000 nits. Let's move on to some hard data. The Alienware QD-OLED monitor covered 99% of the DCI-P3 color gamut in UV terms, whereas rectangularity coverage was 81%, powered by quantum dot technology with distinct red, green, and blue peaks as per the display's spectral power distribution. Color accuracy from factory was outstanding, as suggested by the calibration report supplied by Dell inside the shipping box. Using a colorimetry research CR100 meter profile to a CR250H spectroradiometer, we obtained an average delta error of less than 1 on this challenging color checker SG chart where 140 patches were measured against the D65 white point used within the film, broadcast, and gaming industry, with no inaccuracies exceeding delta error 2, and all we needed to do was to select sRGB and the appropriate gamma target in the Creator Picture preset. Then set the monitor's SDR brightness control to a suitable value for your viewing environment. HDR color accuracy against D65 white point and DCI-P3 color space was similarly impressive. The high delta error on white was caused by deviation from the 1000 nit benchmark on the 10% window. Once we removed the luminance component, you can see no inaccuracies exceeding delta error 2, and this was pretty much out of the box without any further calibration needed. Which brings us to factor number 3. You can enjoy these accurate colors across the entire screen, and even from an angle too, because of the excellent screen uniformity on full-field gray slides, as well as class-leading viewing angles which maintain contrast and colors better off-axis than any competing monitor or television technology in production currently. When it came to dark uniformity, our Alienware AW3423DW review sample looked cleaner than every WRGB OLED television we've tested so far, although the smaller screen size of the QD OLED monitor may have played a part here. Factor number 4 is its HDR performance. 2 HDR modes are provided on the monitor, namely HDR400 True Black and HDR Peak 1000. HDR400 True Black prioritizes ABL or Automatic Brightness Limiter stability, so you won't experience a jarring screen dimming when going from a small white window to a full white screen. While this browser is displayed on screen, I would like to tell you about the Opera browser, which has a number of useful features built in, such as letting you access your favorite messenger and social media apps directly from the sidebar. For example, I use WhatsApp a lot to communicate with my industry contacts all around the world, as well as Twitter to keep up with the latest breaking news, and Opera lets me do this seamlessly without needing to open a new tab. While planning and scripting my next YouTube video uploads, I also listen to music directly from the sidebar. I subscribe to Tidal because the highest fidelity is important to me, but there is support for Spotify and YouTube Music too. In addition, the Opera browser features an inbuilt ad blocker to protect your privacy and speed up your browsing experience, and even a free no-lock VPN that lets you browse the web securely and anonymously. So download the Opera browser today and try it out for free. I will leave a link in the YouTube description below. Thanks again for your support. Coming back to the review, HDR-PIC 1000 is generally the better choice for watching HDR movies and playing HDR games. As you can see here in Halo Infinite, how bright highlights appeared clipped and blown out once we switched to HDR True Black 400. And even going into the HDR calibration screen to readjust the game's output did not come close to matching the HDR-PIC 1000 mode in terms of preservation of bright highlight detail. Our review unit tracked the ST2084 PQ EOTF standard accurately, adapting the roll-off to the max CLL metadata to preserve bright highlight detail even in HDR movies graded to 4000 nits. And with a full screen brightness of around 280 nits, the Alienware QD-OLED monitor could depict high APL scenes in a more impactful manner than every WRGB OLED television we've reviewed to date. Factor number 5 is the near-instantaneous pixel response time of the Alienware QD-OLED monitor. Using a 1 nanosecond photo detector connected to an oscilloscope, we measured a 10% to 90% rise time of around 2 milliseconds going from full black to full white, which is quicker than any LCD monitor, so you won't see any smearing, ghosting or trailing artifacts in fast-action games. Input lag measured 18 milliseconds at 60 frames per second, and 11 milliseconds at 120 frames per second, which is slightly slower than LG OLEDs. But please bear in mind that these measurements were captured at 1080p using the Meridio 7G signal generator over HDMI. The monitor's input lag should be even lower over DisplayPort at native resolution with VRR and higher refresh rate of 144Hz or even 175Hz. Which brings us to factor number 6. The Alienware AW3423DW supports up to 175Hz with G-Sync Ultimate certification through its DisplayPort 1.4 input, allowing for extremely smooth gameplay that's free of tearing and frame drops. However, because of the absence of DSC or display stream compression support, once you switch from 10-bit 144Hz to 175Hz, the color depth would drop to 8-bit due to the bandwidth limitation of DisplayPort 1.4, prompting some users to automatically dismiss using 175Hz to play HDR games. After plenty of back and forth switching, we couldn't really see any significant increase in posterization on this display HDR test pattern despite using 8-bit 175Hz on our RTX 3090 card, suggesting that Nvidia's dithering was doing a fairly good job while still allowing Windows to output HDR. Perhaps a bigger reason to avoid 175Hz was that there's more VRR flickering in certain games, since there's a bigger deviation from the optimized gamma. But in other games not affected by VRR flicker, we absolutely enjoyed the greater responsiveness afforded by 175Hz refresh rate. Factor number 7 that adds to the Alienware QD-OLED monitor's appeal is its apparent resistance to image retention and hopefully burn-in. Here, I'm displaying a 10% window at full brightness in HDR for 10 seconds, which feels like an eternity to me, and then switching to a full field grace light, and hopefully you can see that there's not even a hint of image retention on the QD-OLED monitor, whereas even the best WRGB OLED TVs with heatsink would at least take a few seconds to clear away the resulting image retention. In terms of anti-screen burn measures, by default, the monitor would interrupt whatever you're doing after a few hours of use, and prompt you to run the pixel refresh minor compensation cycle. Thankfully, you can skip the process and even disable the notification. We caught the monitor doing some undefeatable pixel shifting from time to time, but it's very mild and unnoticeable given the screen's expanded ultra-wide aspect ratio. We didn't see any missing pixel on this overscan test pattern stretched to fill the screen. The Alienware AW3423DW didn't seem to partake in any auto-dimming, even when a bright HDR picture with static elements was paused on screen for more than 30 minutes, underscoring the company's belief in the inherent burn-in resistance of QD OLED. In fact, Alienware is so confident, it is throwing in a 3-year premium warranty that covers OLED burn-in, so you can use or abuse the monitor without feeling the need to baby it. With all these 7 factors in place, and a very reasonable price of $1,300 for a cutting-edge display technology, I genuinely don't think there's a better PC gaming monitor on the market right now, and so the Alienware AW3423DW QD-OLED monitor receives our highly recommended Best in Class award. Now, before you rush out to buy this QD-OLED monitor, if you can even find one in stock, I'm obliged to warn you that it is not suitable for some use cases. I've done a follow-up video listing 5 scenarios where you'd be foolish to buy the Alienware AW3423DW, and you can watch the video by clicking here.